Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knights of the Round Table. I'm Luca, and this is TJ.
Hello
And
there,
for tonight's
everyone.
edition, we are reviewing Leprechaun.
Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. You celebrate there or something. So, Leprechaun. After moving to a new house with her father, Tori, and a group of guys who are paying the house, accidentally awaken a goblin who wants his gold, and and they after a bunch of misfortune in which they obtain the gold, the toys that I need, they are proceeded to be tormented by the leprechaun, and it's very boring. Did I say goblin? Did I say goblin at first?
Yeah, you said Goblin.
Yeah, I'll get into that later. So, Luca, have you seen this movie before? What's your history with this film?
I've seen clips of it before,
Hmm.
a few years ago,
Hmm.
and I thought it was really stupid.
Yeah.
And then realizing St. Patrick's Day was coming up, I wanted to review it for the holidays.
All right.
Yeah, the movie
Yeah,
is god awful.
it's not. No, I wouldn't say that. It's a, it's a B movie, a comedy horror film, which is something I forgot to say. And in those regards, I don't think it does too well.
Yeah, it doesn't do
Hmm.
well in either genre.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, apparently. I guess we should. I. So what are some things you liked about the movie? Can you think of anything?
I think some moments are funny when
Yeah.
Ozzy acts dumb,
I'm smart,
Yeah.
right, guys?
and
And
when Tori thinks Nathan is caressing her leg.
Nathan?
yeah, I don't. Okay, I don't. Hmm, I didn't find it too funny. I liked Ozzy's relationship with Alex. I think they could have been developed a little bit more, but I kind of like their relationship. It's kind of. I found it kind of sweet. Like just yeah. There was a few competent. There's some instances of competent camera work that were kind of interesting to look at, and and overall it's decently competent. I guess this should, yeah. The story and plot work all right. It's yeah, like they're functional. There's a I do feel that the characters should have changed a little bit more, but yeah, but I think, but yeah, but it works. Like you know what's going on. It's not too yeah. It's not too long. Like it's decently paced, and it doesn't yeah decently paced. And I do like some of the creature effects and some of the practical effects, like with the leprechaun himself.
The majority of the movie takes place in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't go anywhere till the end of the movie.
They go to the house near the end of the movie. They go places. I do think they go to the hospital and the pawn shop, and also there's variety within the house. I think, I think the locations are decently utilized, but hmm, I don't really. I guess where to start? I do like. What is your thoughts on the leprechaun, the titular monster?
I think he looks scary, but upon seeing him, like, hurt people,
Yeah,
it just looks kind of funny. It
yeah.
looks like, it just looks like primarily a comedy movie.
I mean, it is a comedy. It's trying to
No,
be
what
a
I'm trying to say
comedy.
is, it looks like it's just a comedy movie. Like there's nothing
Yeah,
else to it than comedy.
I think. Hmm, I think the okay. Yeah, the character himself. I think the makeup on him is a little too overdone. I think he just looks comical and not very creepy. Not the,
Yeah,
but really, I do like the. Yeah, But the character. So what about the character? He, I don't feel the movie really used its premise too well, like or its titular monster. Like, I mean, there's a lot of the. I mean, if you like just looking at the depths, for instance, not many of them are super leprechaun-y themed. Like he's not. Yeah, a lot of them are just sort of. So a lot of them are just boring. That's which I think is the problem, which I feel is a problem because this film is trying to be a B movie, and well, it is a B movie, and the idea is that you should get the most enjoyment out of seeing a ridiculous premise like this being shown on screen, similar to say Sharknado as a more recent example. But I do, yeah, but they just but they don't really they don't really use the premise all that well. Like I like the pogo stick stuff. It's not I don't think it's too well on theme, but it's creative. There's a and I guess I kind of like the bear trap scene, but most of it is just kind of standard. Like I keep on wanting to call the leprechaun a goblin. I think the main reason is that a lot of the things he does aren't too leprechaun-ish. Like he's not particularly being a trickster. He's not too stereotypically Irish in any ways.
Yeah.
I guess he's I guess he I mean they do some things like how his like with his motivations and weaknesses and how he's weak to Loki Clovers and how he wants his gold. But it just feels a little weak. I'm almost curious to see what they do in their sequels, which from the looks of them embrace the camp a lot more.
There is 8 movies of Leprechaun. 8.
Yeah,
8 movies of this little green abomination.
Hee hee hee.
it has an audience. Yeah,
How?
makes how? Because yeah, the idea is that it's such a stupid premise that it's fun to watch, which I do think, yeah, which which I don't think this film encapsulates too well, as I just said. But I think it would be interesting to see what they do in the sequels. Yeah, and also from what I've heard, from what I've heard from them, they actually do a little bit more, even if it's still. But I do think. But what's your thoughts on the effects? Like, why do you like the creature effects?
I don't like the effects. They're
I
pretty.
like
They're terrible.
I think they're decent. They're decent. I don't know. I like practical effects and this movie they're decently executed but not particularly outstanding. I do like the charm of them. I like the dummy. I like the gore effects with the leprechaun when he's shot. I also like his teleportation animation. I think they use 2D animation, although I have no solid proof for that. But I like how his nervous system appears in his skull than the rest of the leprechaun. It's very yeah. I found that to be very creative, if not
Yeah, I think
creative
the
and
I think the effects could have been executed better. They could have added more touches to them.
there's yeah. I don't think it's. I think they could have been yeah. Maybe, but it's yeah. Still, I think that was one of the things I did kind of enjoy seeing. Although this film isn't as outstanding in that regard. Let's talk about it from a comedy perspective. How'd you find the comedy in this film?
Decent. I think there were funny moments here and there between the main characters.
I didn't really find that funny.
The
Apparently,
leprechaun
this
the leprechaun wasn't that good.
yeah. I don't. Yeah. apparently this film was originally a more straightforward horror film with a leprechaun, and the comedic elements were added in later, which it does, and it does feel like that. A lot of the slaps, I don't think the slapstick is particularly interesting or funny. There's a beyond, say, the pogo stick death, and I do kind of, I do think it's not super funny, but creative. That the leprechaun rides a bike, but then that's a weird element of the film. They make 5 jokes, which are essentially the leprechaun goes riding in a strange vehicle and or means of transportation. They do it. It's I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it is strange. I do not. It is strange, but I do. Yeah, but yeah, and I didn't really think the characters were I don't think they were all that funny.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tori is her name correct. I found the human characters to be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Tori is just forgettable, and just seems like they wanted to parody the idea of a horror film bimbo, but it doesn't really work. Her boy, yeah. Let's see, what's his?
Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan is also kind of boring. Her father's not a character. And as mentioned, I do kind of like Ozzy and Alex's relationship. Although I think they could have been developed a little bit more. So what about the horror?
The horror wasn't very good either. I didn't find it to be that scary.
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it's the horror bits. I don't find to be either that scary or really entertaining. Like I mentioned, I think a wider problem with this film is that. No, I'll get that later. I think yeah, it doesn't. I think a wider problem with this film is that the comedy and horror don't really mix well. There's a few scenes where it's done all right, but for the most part, they feel very separate. The premise in the titular monster is too goofy to really be taken seriously as a horror. But when you look at the rest of the film, it's just like ignoring the antagonist. It's just a subpar horror film.
Yeah, they make the horror scenes so obvious, and the comedy aspect of them kind of takes over and diminishes the horror of them.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, and also again, I mentioned, like, I do think it is kind of like they don't really. It doesn't really feel like the deaths of a film called Leprechaun. Like he's just. I mean, you have a leprechaun, which are usually these little trickstery little dudes, and he's biting people. That's what you're doing with the premise. Yeah,
He's biting people, choking people, gouging their eyes out, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's not very.
It's not very Leprechaun-like.
Yeah, it's not very. Yeah, like it's just. He's just. He's just practically a goblin. He could be a goblin, and not much would change. What else?
Oh yeah. Guess how much the crew profited off this movie?
This film, it doesn't look cheap, although it does seem to have a very kind of a cheap production.
Oh no, it's not cheap. But guess how much they made off of it?
I would say about something in the millions.
Yeah, something in the millions.
I'm gonna make a guess about $10 million.
They made 8.6 million.
8.6 million makes enough sense. How much did this? Yeah, how much did this film cost to make? I'm wondering.
Somewhere between $900,000 to $1 million.
Makes sense. Cheap. cheap film. You don't need to sell too many tickets, and it has an interesting enough premise to get butts in seats.
But I was expecting you to say something lower than 8.6 million.
I mean, horror movies are typically a safe bets. Like you don't need. They're usually cheap to make. They're usually cheap to make, and they're easy to get people to see. Like they could be very back then and even today. So, Luca, would you recommend this film?
I would recommend it if you want to just watch it for the heck of it and make fun of it.
Yeah, I'd probably say about this. I'd probably say about the same thing. If you want to see a Leprechaun horror film, you could do better, but you could also do worse. This film is just it's a fun film to play with some friends around, and again just heckle at it. It is, yeah, but as a film, but I don't think I don't think you're all gonna want to watch it again. It's just
They try too hard with the premise.
they tried too hard with the premise. I think they didn't try enough. I don't think they tried enough. But anyways, I think this movie's bad. I'd probably give it a 4 or 3. I don't think it's something.
Yeah, I would give it a 1 out of 10. I think it's a failure.
How so? How's it a failure?
Because just look at it. Like the transitions are bad, the effects are bad, the actors are bad. Like
I mean,
they don't put enough effort into like their script writing and the digital effects.
These are practical.
And they just make the horror so obvious.
No, I mean they wanted to make a B film with Leprechaun. They did, and it made us good sum of money, as you pointed out.
I just think it's a failure of a movie.
So you gave Jack and Jill a 3, but you gave this a 1.
Yeah, because Jack and Jill is funnier. The jokes are cheesy, and the characters are kind of boring. Like they try to be funny, but they just don't do a good job at it.
Yeah, I think it's mostly the writing in that regard.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess it's my turn to choose the next film. What to watch? You know what? We can watch Secret of Nim. Is that streaming anywhere?
You can watch on Amazon Prime or Xfinity.
Yeah, rental. Alright, that will. Alright then.
Alrighty
Secret
then.
of Nim then. Alright.